Even now, years later, the memories linger. They surface unexpectedly, like shards of glass catching the light. Sharp, painful, a constant reminder of the darkness that once threatened to consume me. It's hard to believe how naive I once was, how easily I fell for his charm, his promises. Back then, I never could have imagined the nightmare my life would become. The pain was unlike anything I'd ever known. It wasn't just physical, although the bruises and cuts were constant reminders of his rage. It was a deep, soul-crushing agony that seeped into every aspect of my being. It stole my joy, my laughter, my very sense of self. For years I lived in fear, a prisoner in my own home. Mark swept me off my feet. He was charming, attentive, everything I thought I wanted. He brought me flowers, wrote me poetry, made me feel like the only woman in the world. Our early days were filled with laughter, whispered secrets, stolen kisses. We were inseparable, two halves of a whole. Looking back, I can see the warning signs. The possessiveness disguised as love. The subtle jabs at my appearance, my intelligence. The way his moods could shift in an instant, leaving me confused, walking on eggshells. But I was blinded by love, or what I believed to be love. The first time he hit me, I was shocked. It was after a party. He'd had too much to drink. A stupid argument about something insignificant escalated quickly. His hand connected with my face before I even realized what was happening. I tasted blood, felt the sting of tears. He immediately apologized, swore he'd never do it again. He bought me flowers, showered me with gifts. He begged for forgiveness, blamed the alcohol, promised to get help. And like a fool, I forgave him. I believed him. But the abuse continued, escalating with each passing month. The shoves became punches. The insults became threats. I was trapped, living in a constant state of fear. The night I thought I would die is forever seared into my memory. We were arguing, as we often did. His words were cruel, cutting me deeper than any knife. This time I fought back, my voice shaking with a mixture of fear and anger. His rage exploded. He grabbed me by the throat, squeezing the air from my lungs. I couldn't breathe, couldn't scream. His face was contorted in a mask of hate. In that moment, I knew he was capable of killing me. Somehow I managed to break free, scrambling away from him like a wounded animal. I locked myself in the bathroom, the sound of his fists pounding on the door echoing in my ears. Shame kept me silent. Shame prevented me from reaching out for help. I was ashamed of the bruises, ashamed of staying with him, ashamed of allowing myself to become his victim. So I hid the truth from my friends, my family. I wore long sleeves and scarves to cover the marks on my skin. I made excuses for his behavior. The isolation was crushing. I felt so alone, trapped in a prison of my own making. My self-esteem was shattered. I doubted my own sanity. His words echoed in my mind, telling me I was worthless, ugly, unlovable. I started to believe him. It was my birthday. He'd promised a special evening. A glimmer of hope flickered inside me, a hope that he might actually be changing, that things might finally be different. But as we sat in the restaurant surrounded by other couples, his mood shifted. He didn't like my dress. He thought I was flirting with the waiter. His voice dripped with sarcasm, his eyes cold and accusing. Then, in front of everyone, he stood up and screamed at me, calling me names I can't repeat. Humiliated and broken, I fled the restaurant, his cruel laughter echoing behind me. That night, something inside me snapped. I realized I couldn't live like this anymore. I deserved better. So for the first time, I reached out for help. I called a domestic abuse hotline, my voice trembling as I whispered my story to a stranger. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but also the bravest. The woman on the other end of the line listened with compassion and understanding. She didn't judge me. She gave me the number of a local shelter and encouraged me to come in. that phone call was my lifeline, a beacon of hope in the darkness. Leaving him wasn't easy. There were threats, promises to change, attempts to manipulate me into staying. But I was done. With the support of the shelter staff and my family, I found the strength to walk away. The road to recovery was long and arduous. I had to confront the trauma I'd endured, rebuild my shattered self-esteem, learn to trust again. Therapy helped me to understand the dynamics of abuse, to see that it was never my fault. I surrounded myself with supportive people who loved me unconditionally. It took time, but gradually the light began to seep back into my life. I started to laugh again, to dream again. I rediscovered passions I'd forgotten I had. I learned to love and respect myself again. The experience, as horrific as it was, made me stronger than I ever thought possible. It taught me the true meaning of resilience, the importance of self-love, the power of hope. I emerged from the darkness, not unscathed but unbroken. If you are reading this and see yourself in my story, please know that you are not alone. Domestic violence thrives in silence. Breaking free starts with a single step, a whisper for help. There are people who care, who understand, who want to help you find your way back to the light. You are worthy of love, respect, and happiness. Don't let anyone, least of all your abuser, tell you otherwise. Reach out, speak your truth. Your life may depend on it. There is hope, even in the darkest of times, and you are stronger than you think.